Hello students, welcome to the next topic of units and measurement. In this presentation you will learn about dimensional analysis. This topic is very much useful, and always there is a question in competitive exams, so I'm trying to make it very easy and simple so that all of you can understand. And don't forget to make notes along with me so that there will be easier to you in revising while your examination. So let us begin without wasting a single minute. So we are going to study about the dimension of physical quantities. So it has some applications. The first one is to check whether an equation is correct or incorrect. So this one is the most useful for checking an equation in physics, because there are millions of equations in physics and you cannot learn every equation. So we must have something like a method, so that if we forget the equation and still we have to write the equation, then after writing at least we can check it is correct or not. So we must have some basic idea about this. And the secondary deduction of equations means we have some dependency of variable and we wanna try to find the relation among them. So this method is useful for this purpose. And conversion of units, we have units like FPS, CGS, SI, MKS. So these units are interconvertible and one unit can be converted into another. So we will see soon how to use these three applications. Okay, before we move further, let us revise the content from the previous video. What we have studied there: the need of unit, means why we need units, who decide these units, and fundamental and derived quantities, definition of base unit. This one is a new, and I suggest you to learn it from your textbook. Learn every definition of 7 kind of base unit, that is known as fundamental units. Okay, dimensions, you have learned about it, and writing the formula of physical quantities by using dimensions, you have done it. Now we have one example to show you how to do it. Find the dimensional formula of G. So let us find the dimensional formula of G. So for this, first of all, we must knowing the universal law of gravitation. So here we go. F equal to G multiplied with m1 m2 whole upon r square. This means product of masses divided by square of distance between them. So from here we can easily eliminate G. Now note that for finding the dimensional formula, you must remember the base formula. Means base formula is important. Base formula is important. Means this is the thing that you have to learn, so that you can easily calculate the dimensional formula. So from G equal to Fr square from m1 divided by m1 into m2. Since we know the dimensional formula of F, we have calculated earlier, it becomes mlt minus 2 multiplied by r square is a distance, means length, so L2. Okay, this is L square, I mistook. Okay, now becomes L square and divided by m square. So the formula of G becomes m minus 1 L3 t minus 2. This is the way to pronounce it. Understood? Okay. Now the first topic we have discussed in study of dimensional formula That is the principle of homogeneity. This one is the first application, and this is used to check whether an equation may be correct or not. This is an extremely useful concept. Two physical quantity can only be added or subtracted if and only if their dimensions are same. Means I'm saying that this is the principle, this is the statement of the principle, that two quantities can only be added when they have the same quantity. Means you can add length in length, but if you try to add length in time, this cannot be added. This cannot be added. Means if the unit is different, you cannot add or subtract the thing. How it is possible to subtract length from time? Length has no time. Length has no time. So how will you subtract? So this is the basic, and this is very much obvious. Your nature is following this principle always. Okay, I shown you the example, and I told you the example. So a dimensionally correct equation need not to be actually correct. This one is the limitation. So we'll talk about limitation later. Let us see one more example based on this homogeneity. Suppose you all are familiar with these equations, s equal to ut plus half at square. Don't you? Yes, I know, everyone, because you have studied this equation in your earlier classes, class 9th, and you have used it so many times, so now it is very obvious to write it, s equal to ut plus half at square. But have you ever observed that this is s, means distance, and this is ut plus half at square? So the different means s is, we are equating s with ut and then plus half at square, addition of two quantities. And what homogeneity says? Homogeneity says that you can add two quantities only when their unit are same. So let's check the unit of ut, means u multiplied by t. U is speed. Here symbol has their usual meaning, you know about them, like u is initial speed, t is time, s is distance or displacement. Ut means meter per second into time. So meter per second into time, in dimensional formula we say it LT minus 1 for speed. See here, listen what I am saying, LT minus 1, and when it multiplied with t, then tt cancels each other and it becomes L. Okay, and what about at square? Same for at square. Use your note copy and solve it quickly. Pause the video and solve it, because you have studied dimensional formula. Now the s is displacement, and displacement is also a length. So you are adding one length plus second length and you are getting the answer in length. Okay, isn't it surprising? But this is very much obvious and nature follows this. Okay, move to second example. V equal to u plus at. Again, this is the first equation of motion, but we are not interested in first equation, we are interested in dimensional formula. So let's check. V equal to u plus at. What is V? Final speed. What is final speed? Means what is the unit of final speed? Meter per second. So LT minus 1. So what about u? Again LT minus 1, because u, b, both are speeds and they must have the same quantity. So what about at now? A into t. A is acceleration, and dimensional formula of acceleration is LT minus 2. Again I am saying this I told you in previous video. So If you had not watched yet that video, move to there, watch the video and then come to here. A into T, A stand for acceleration, LT minus 2 and again into T. So 2 minus 1 becomes 1, and if that minus will be inversed becomes minus 1. So AT equal to LT minus 1. So you can see clearly that you are adding two quantities having the same dimensional formula. So again this equation is correct according to dimensional formula. Understood? Okay, now move to limitation part. The limitation part is saying, limitation of homogeneity is saying that a equation having the same dimensional formula need not to be correct. Actually means these numbers are not considered while the checking of principle of homogeneity. Understood? Means if we write this formula as, okay, let me copy this. Keep your eyes on the screen. So if I am removing 80 and let us make it 80 square, so S equal to UT plus 80 square. Now this one is the formula which is again dimensionally correct because 80 square has the dimension L and UT has the dimension L. So S also has the dimension L, means you are adding two length and you are getting length. But actually this formula is not correct. Nature do not follow this one. Homogeneity tells only the equation is dimensionally correct or not, and a dimensionally incorrect equation will always be incorrect. Okay, but there is two possibility. If the equation is dimensionally correct, so there is a possibility that equation may be correct just because of these constants. Okay, are you getting it? So we have wrote here the limitation: a dimensionally correct equation need not to be actually correct. Now understood? But dimensionally wrong equation must be wrong. If a equation is not dimensionally correct, then it will be wrong equation. So this principle of homogeneity is very much useful. Now promise to yourself and promise to me that every time when you derive a equation in your note copy, because you have a lot of derivation in physics, always you will check your final result by matching principle of homogeneity. Means you will check for the dimensional formula of RHS and LHS, and by doing this you can save your marks, because so many times by mistake we may wrong, and if we solve the wrong equation, then there must be the answer will be different. So principle of homogeneity allow you to correct yourself. Understood? Now okay, move to next one, that is the deducing relation among physical quantities. This one is the second application. So for this there is some basic requirement. There are some basic requirement. The requirement is, if one knows the quantity, if one knows the quantities on which a particular physical quantity depends. I mean to say that if you know the quantities on which a single quantity depends, then you can guess the relation in the product form, and this will help you to derive the equation. So let us see an example to understand it more better. Are you making notes? Keep doing the thing along with me. Okay, so let us see the example. The example is relation among physical quantities. Okay, so let's consider a scenario. The scenario is about a free fall of an object, means the object is falling freely from a certain height. So suppose that from this height a object is dropped. Okay, this is the object and this has been dropped from this height, and the object start falling under gravity. This is the ground position. So what will happen? Simply the object will fall on the ground. Don't see it as a layman. Now you are in 11th class. Look it into some different ways. For this, it has to travel the distance, this distance, which will call as what? H, means this is the height, and the time it will took for free fall, that is T, the gravity applying. Okay, so let us see that during free fall the time depend on height, means greater will be the height, greater will be time. It is very obvious, this is nature. So but there is a gravity, and if gravity is different, then it will take less time. Means if gravity is higher, it will take less time. If gravity is a bit less, this is gravity means what? Gravity is just acceleration. Gravity provide acceleration, so it also depends on the acceleration due to gravity. So time depends on two factors: time depends on height, time depends on gravity. So we can say that time depends on height into gravity. I said earlier that you can represent them in the form of product, and now you see here time directly height into gravity. Understood? So for this we actually don't know the factors. We actually don't know the factor by which height is depending on gravity, time is depending on gravity and height. So let us write here, suppose that it depends on height to the power a and gravity to the power v. Why I am doing so? Do you understand? This is only because to make you understand that we don't know the time is linearly depend on height, so we cannot take a as 1, and time linearly depends on gravity, this is also we don't know, so we cannot make b as 1. So we have to take these exponents a and b. Now reducing it, t directly h to the power a multiplied with g to the power b. As you remove the sign of directly proportional, here you will get a constant named k. So now writing the dimensional formula, as we put this bracket, this square bracket, this means we are writing its dimensional formula. So t, small t, the dimensional formula of time is capital T, and for the h is a length, so L, and for LT minus 2 gravity, simply an acceleration, so gravity to the power b. Now when you open this, so let us right here, time equal to k times L to the power, look here you can see 2L, L to the power A and L to the power B. So L to the power A plus B, L to the power A plus B, L to the power A plus B, and close the bracket, and t to the power multiplied with t to the power here capital T minus 2 B. Okay, now what should be the next step? Next step is we will compare this to the t, since t has only one power, and if we write the full dimensional formula of t, it will look like as m to the power 0, L to the power 0, and t to the power 1, and t to the power 1. This is the full formula, m to the power 0, let me make it as a power, okay, power, this is also power, becomes equal to k times the equation wrote here. Understanding? So now from here we will eliminate the value, as we have a plus b, okay, and this a plus b equal to 0 from left hand, right hand, comparing right hand with the left hand, a plus b equal to 0, and minus 2b will be equal to 1. So from here you have two equations and you can calculate the equations. So let me write here, on comparing we get what? a plus b equals 0, and this is your basic question. I'm trying to elaborate more things so that it will be more clear to you. And minus 2b equals 0. So minus 2b equals 1, sorry, this gives b equal to minus half and a equal to plus half. Okay, this is done now. These are just basic equation, linear equation, and I think so you can solve it. You have studied in class 10th. So putting the value of a and b, we get in equation 1 we have this is equation 1, we are putting the value of a and b, and becomes t equals to k into h h power 1 by 2 g to the power minus 1 by 2. Now as we know that half 1 by 2 can be taken as a root, and the reduced equation is t equal to k times under root h by g. So this one is the reduced equation, but the disadvantage of using this method is we cannot get the value of k, and since we write here 2h by g means the value of k is root 2. How do I know? Simple. This is experimentally determined value, and you can check this value by using the equation of motion. I hope you understand this concept, and this one is the biggest concept right now, and this question is asked in your examinations, class 11th, half yearly or annual examinations, such kind of question. If you have still any problem in this, you may ask in comment section. So let us move ahead. We have reduced the physical quantities. Now what about the limitations? Since we know that this is very useful method, this is very obvious, but it cannot lead us too far. First requirement, one should know all the dependency. The first thing you required. This method works only if dependency in the product type. These are the disadvantages. Okay, the numerical coefficient cannot determine as I told you, and the method works only if there are many equations available as there are unknowns. For this, again move to this. A plus b equals 0 and minus 2b equal to 1. What happens if we have third and fourth equation and we don't know their relation? So there will be a difficulty in finding the unknowns like a and b, c and d. Understanding? In this case the unknowns was lesser, and equation we get two unknown, two equation. But what will happen if we have three unknowns and only two equations? Then there will be problem. This is the limitations of dimensional method. Now one more method is remaining, we shall discuss in the next presentation. And now your homework is check the consistency of all the formula you know. And the second problem is this one, you have to do by using the principle of homogeneity. Consistency means how consistent is the equations, and this consistency you can measure by using the principle of homogeneity. Secondary thing is solve the problem based on the previous application. Okay, now we shall stop here. See you in the next presentation.